Hi, I'm Sean. I own and operate a small mobile engineering business called KuneRE here in Ohakune, New Zealand. In my spare time, I like to restore and modify classic cars here in my home workshop. As I alluded to in my last video, I said that I'd do a bit of a workshop tour. Now, I realise it's been a long time since I did videos in the shed here. As I mentioned before, I really had to spend a bit of time putting some effort into our house. We've got an old house here, so I spent a lot of time fixing that up. And so the car stuff had to take a break. And what ended up happening is I got a bunch of the jobs done on the house, and then with a bunch of leftover materials and the time, I decided to give the shed a bit of a makeover. So I spent a lot of time lining it, decorating it, reorganising, making things that I'd always wanted to make. And so I thought, now that I'm nearing the time where I'm keen to get back into these car projects, I thought we'll kick it off by doing a good workshop tour. Show you around, show you what I've done, a few things that I still want to do, talk about just organisation of the shed, layout, all that sort of stuff. I guess I should go into a little bit of history of this shed. So we purchased this house about 10 years or so ago, and when we moved here, this wasn't a shed, it was just a lean-to, just the roof. And when we bought the house, one of my, as a lot of people, one of my rules for the house we wanted to buy was had to have a shed, and didn't get that obviously because, like I said, it was just a roof. But after looking at the options and what was here and what the place sort of offered us, we went with it. And over the next few years, I sort of set about building walls putting walls on the place, pouring the concrete for the floor. We ended up doing a bit of an extension, extending it out a bit more to the boundary and giving it a bit of an entrance. So the shed definitely isn't ideal. It's what it is. I really enjoy it in here, and I really like making do with what I've got. So I've embraced what it is, and it suits me well. The shed measures 12 metres long and it's 5.5 metres wide, which is 66 square metres, I think. So it's not the biggest shed in the world, but on the other hand, it's not the smallest either. As you've seen, I've got a fair bit of stuff in here, which I've put a lot of time and effort, especially recently, into getting it laid out right, getting it all so I can use things and so it works, keeping it tidy. I really like to keep it tidy, which, same again, put a lot of effort into just making it so I can keep it tidy, really. Now, for a while, we did have plans of leaving this place, buying some land or buying another house, and dreams of a big shed. That really was on the cards for us, or it was what we were aiming for at least. But with the COVID situation, all these lockdowns that keep happening, and just spending a bit of time at home, we realised how much we really enjoyed it here. We're in a good financial spot where we are, so I kind of had to realise that the grass isn't always greener. Sometimes what you've got is perfect. So really tried to embrace what we've got and just enjoying myself here. So once I sort of got that into my head, that was when I decided that, right, if we're going to be here for a while and I really want to enjoy myself out in the shed where I spend a lot of time, that I would put the effort into lining it, decorating it, and just sort of make it a bit more my own. In the past, it just sort of, I was kind of treating it as a temporary space, to be honest, because I always thought I'd end up with a bigger shed somewhere, which may still happen, but at least for the foreseeable future, we'll be here. So I really wanted to make the shed a place that I wanted to be, a place that sort of reflected things I like and the things that I've got. So yeah, so I've, like I said earlier, have been spending a fair bit of time just getting it sorted. So I thought, great time now to show you around. We'll run through, we'll just walk around and I'll just run through everything and see what pops in my head and try and tell you a bit of history about a few things and things that I like and whatnot. So Yeah, let's do that, eh? So this is the main sort of parking area or working space for cars. So this is the main entrance roller door, personnel door out to the side, and then there's obviously a roller door there as well, which just goes out to the back of the property. Just there's a bit of storage at the back. Now the reason I actually put a door there was mainly for access, because this wall here is quite close to the boundary, so I thought by putting a roller door in the back there I could go right through and get to where I needed to get. So like I said, the shed is 12 meters long and then 5.5 meters wide, which is fine. It'd be a bit nicer if the shed was a touch wider. 5.5 meters is, I mean, the Starlet's a short car, but you get a long car in here and it takes up pretty much the whole room. But like I said, it is what it is, and just make do. So like I said, how it was originally a lean-to, so the original roof structure came to right here, and then so from there out is the extension that we did, and this whole row of shelving here is built around the original poles holding up the roof. So these poles in the workbench here are what's holding up the roof, and so that's why I built this shelving into the wall, which then actually makes even the width of the shed here even a bit narrower. So it is kind of awkward. It'd be a bit nicer maybe if I could have, say, where the 626s sideways and a bit more room, but yeah, got to make do with what it is. As you'll see, I've used a lot of this tongue and groove paneling here throughout the shed. Now, I bought a huge pallet of this from a deceased estate auction, and so that's what I ended up using in our house quite a lot. So when I said I had a lot left over, I did all the house renovations that I wanted to do with it, and had heaps of it left over. So that's what kick-started the idea to line the shed. So I've lined all that wall in my mess room, which you'll see. I eventually may get in behind my shelving and pull it all down and line and all behind there, but I haven't for now. It's a bit of a job, so I may carry this paneling on all the way through, but that's where it's come from anyway. It was this is the leftover from doing the house job, so I've just put some, so I'd say it's a cold sign, but it's not an old sign, it's a reproduction of Mazda Sign. Had an old rusty panel of something that I thought I'd cut the TEQ logo into. Got some cool posters and photos that mean a lot to me. So 767B and FDRX7. So my good friend Richard Opie took this photo. Just a stunning shot of two cool Mazdas. So he printed these and purchased one off him. This cool old Mazda RX-7 poster that I pulled off an old panel shop wall. It had a thrashing, as you can see, but I thought it was a cool poster, so I framed it, hung it up. And this is the feature of my Corolla that was in New Zealand Performance Car. So I took all the pages of the feature and hung them up. And drawn by my friend Thomas. This is a copy of the original of the cover of the magazine that my Corolla was featured in, which you'll see. I'll show you later on when I've got. You'll see the cover shot down on the other wall. So pretty proud of both those, and also pretty stoked to have these on the wall. And got to have a TV in this shed, eh? Got my compressor here, which is I've run air lines through the entire, or not through the entire shed, but to the areas I need. I always wanted to put that compressor outside actually, just to sort of get it out and get the noise away, but I don't really have a spot that would suit. So right here is where it ended up, and it's perfectly fine. So got a hose reel there, and then like I said, air lines out to the other places I need. Classic bar fridge, which everyone needs, which is either full of a keg of beer, or, as I've been trying not to drink so much lately, it's actually got kombucha in the moment. So you can call me a hippie if you like. So this is a project of mine that I've shared online, but not through videos, so I haven't actually touched this thing in a while. I started as a little bit of a project to fill in some time, and I got to the position it's in, and that's it. So it's a little Honda XR100 dirt bike, which I thought I'd have a go at making a chopper out of. I've always liked bikes, and I thought I'd start with something I had, so I'll carry on with that at some point and try and make it a usable bike. I'm sure plenty of you know of Nigel Petrie from Engineered to Slide. Sort of, as you can probably tell if you know his work, stole the idea of a bike bench from him. So this is a cool little addition on caster wheels, so you can move it around and slide it in there. Now, when I came time to lining and decorating the place, if you've noticed in my earlier videos, the door into our house, because this is actually an attached shed, so the door to our house used to be right here, but we've redone our kitchen, which is on the other side of the wall, and so I moved the door over, and then when I was filling in the gaps and lining that wall properly, I had all these posters, which these posters are all from, well, pretty much all of them are from NZPC, New Zealand Performance Car Magazine, which I've been an avid fan and reader of for a long time, and I've always collected these posters, and always, like through flatting and as a young fellow, always wished I had somewhere cool to put them. And you would have seen in the earlier videos, a lot of them were on that wall and around the place, and I thought, right, I'm gonna decorate this entire wall, because it's a bit of, underneath it's a bit of mix and match actually. It's weatherboards and plywood and all sorts of stuff. So and because I did also take a window out too, so I thought, right, I'm going to use all these posters and I don't know what you call it, wallpaper the wall. Now there's a lot of cars on, pretty much all the cars on this wall are New Zealand cars. Might be the odd foreign car, but I've taken a lot of inspiration from some of the cars on this wall. Become friends with a few of the guys that own some of them. And yeah, a lot of inspiration from some of these cars and some of these dudes who are, some of them are legends of the New Zealand car scene, which is pretty cool to say that I call some of them friends. So yeah, so if you see your car on that wall, take it from me that yeah, thanks for the inspiration and the drive. It's pretty cool seeing how many cool cars have come out of New Zealand. Small little country, and you know, some pretty high caliber cars. Moving down here, I've got a bunch of my panel tools, my shrinker stretcher, bead roller, English wheel, and just my roller. So these tools here, when I'm using them, they get a hell of a workout. When I'm doing panel work and stuff, all these come in handy. But when I'm not doing panel work, a lot of them don't get used at all. So I've sort of decided to tuck them all here. I can pull each one out as I need it. They're pretty accessible, but also not taking up too much floor space. So decided on this is a good spot to have them. Got this cool old radio that I scabbed from the dump at some point and did some dodgy wiring and ran some wires from the TV over there. Feeds into that, use that as a bit of an amp, and then just feeds a couple of old house speakers on the wall. So just another case of using what I had lying around or things that I thought are cool. So coming along here, got my hydraulic press, just a generic cheap Chinese press. It's actually sitting on this big lump of concrete here, which was always been here. Not entirely sure, maybe it mounted an old coal range or something years ago. One job I need to do actually is I really need to bolt this thing down to the concrete properly, but this is a nice spot for it. Actually brings, by having it sitting up high, it actually brings the press up to a nice workable height. So use this thing for plenty of stuff actually. They're not the greatest, but they're better than nothing. So yeah, having a press in your workshop is bloody handy. So I just keep all sorts of offcuts, and when I need to push out a bush or a bearing or something, you find something, so I just leave them all there for for the next time. So moving along here, so I've had quite a restructure and organising in here. So this little room is obviously partitioned off with this wall. Now originally when I did partition this off, I actually had the thought of this sort of being a clean room. You know, if I was going to pull, I don't know, pull motors apart or something in here. And I did that for a while. I kind of had my office bit out here as well, and I just realised in the end it was a waste of space. It was sort of a whole area I was hardly using, so I've now sort of reverted it into the opposite, and it's now sort of where I make mess. So it's a bit of a mess room really, which is actually great. So it means that I can have cars out here, although I make a mess out here obviously, but it means that I can have things out here and not get grinding all over them and all sorts. So yeah, so this is a little machine shop mess room. So I've got my mill drill here. I brought this thing off Trade Me, I think. So Trade Me is just an online auction website here in New Zealand. I bought this thing years ago from this little old lady's single car garage at the bottom of a steep driveway. Picked it up one night in the dark, expecting to turn up and there'd be a couple of burly dudes help me lift it on, and it was a little old lady. So I had a hell of a mission getting this thing on the trailer. So I've had this for a while. They are quite a compromise really. They're you know, they're obviously halfway between a mill and a drill press, and it does neither of them great, to be honest. But it's also, once you know the limitations of these things, you can make do. Drill all the things you need to drill, cut keyways and stuff at the mill, face things off, whatever I need to do. So this thing gets a lot of use. And here's my lathe. This is just a little sort of, I think it's about a 900 meter between centers, just a Taiwanese or Chinese lathe. Same deal. I think I bought this thing online years ago, picked it up from someone. I think the week I got it, I said to myself, oh, I'll make a nice cool stand for it. And as you can see, it's still got the crusty old one. I've moved these things around a bit. I think the lathe used to be, yeah, the lathe was there and the mill was there, but over time using things, I've worked out this is sort of the best layout for it. Recently made this nice stainless shroud just to stop coolant spray all over the wall and all sorts. So yeah, finally settled on a nice spot for these. One job I do want to do is, this mill drill has a coolant pump on it. It's the tank down the bottom there. I really want to tie them together actually, because I don't have coolant on this, so I just use that spray bottle over there. So I really would like to maybe plumb this up to that, use the same coolant tank and pump for both. That'd be quite cool. So maybe one day that'll be a job. Now, moving on here, this trolley here is, I use this trolley just for all my panel products really, paints, thinners, bog, sandpaper. This box here is full of all my panel beating tools. So it's basically my panel beating trolley really. Wheel it out when I'm doing any rust repairs or panel and painting. So that's good. It keeps everything contained into one spot. And I had the trolley from, I think I'd made it as a tool trolley years ago, so it's now been turned into that, and it does the job mint. And this is a nice bit for it to spot, a nice spot for it to sit, I should say. Now, when I was doing a bunch of the work on our house and doing all the lining of this and a bunch of other woodworking projects that I've done, I just was getting sawdust everywhere, so I decided to make up this vacuum cleaner with a bit of a cyclone on it. And so it's just a Karcher, is it a Karcher? I think it is, yeah. Vacuum cleaner with a cyclone on top of a rubbish bin. So this is great. So you can, I vacuum up everything. I vacuum the shed, I vacuum up swarf and sawdust and all sorts. And it just fills up the rubbish bin. And I also use the rubbish bin as a rubbish bin. But it's great. I used to, when I just had the vacuum cleaner, you just use bags all the time and it was hopeless. So now you can fill that bin up and that bag barely gets full. I think I just followed some plans off the Shed magazine, if you know that in New Zealand here, to make this up, and yeah, it's been sweet actually. It's been a great little addition. Man, I didn't think vacuuming a shed was even a thing, but once you do it, you won't go back. It's great. Now, I'm unsure if this has been in earlier videos actually. So a little while ago now, I decided to make this welding bench. So I used to have my welders on their own separate trolleys, and they took up a lot of room, and I didn't really have a good space. So what I decided to do was to make this fixture table. So this is just a piece of 10 or 12 mil, can't remember, either or, 10 or 12 mil plate that I drilled and tapped as a bit of a fixture table. And then I've just got my two welders, my MIG welder, my TIG welder, and my dent puller machine is under there. Just trying to get it all into one nice spot. It's on casters, so I can wheel it around, bring it out here to work on cars if I need to. Yeah, use a clamp kit up in the wall for clamping things down, getting things true and square. You can unbolt the vise and move it around, bolt it wherever you need to. So it's been great actually. I'm stoked that I made this. It's been awesome, and it also means that you can use that as, you know, rather than using my other workbench and then welding on it, I just purely weld on here. So I'm real stoked I made that, and yeah, it's worked. It's turned out mint actually. So this is my sort of my steel storage really. So anything that's a bit long is just in this old 200 litre drum, cut up with some separation, bits and bobs of panel steel and stainless and aluminium. And then I just made this frame on casters just to hold these buckets full of offcuts and different bits and pieces. So I used to just have them sitting on the floor there, but it was a mission to clean around, so I just made this frame to wheel it so you can wheel it out and vacuum up. And I do go through it every now and again and just get rid of bits that I'm never going to use, and try and keep the storing of scrap metal to a minimum, but as you can see, there's still plenty there. So when I decided to turn this room into a mess room, I thought I'll make a designated area for grinding and messy work rather than doing it out in the main part. So that's sort of why I've done this. Put tools up that I use quite commonly for marking out and cutting and grinding and all sorts of shit. So this works quite good. Got my dump score of a bench grinder there mounted up, which is use that all the time, sharpening drill bits and buffing things with the wire wheel, all that sort of stuff. It's great. Another dump score. It's big old number 8 record vise was snapped in half. I scored from a scrap pile somewhere. I knew that I'd never use it for anything too massive, so I just welded it up, chucked it on this old wheel and stand that I scored from somewhere, and that been lugging that thing around for ages. It's actually bloody good. Means I can, with that heavy base, you can just move it around to wherever you need it and do vise things with a vise. It's neat, it's sweet. So just up here above my workbench is just got my roll cage bender and tube bender. Some engine parts are up there, and just a little bit of storage of crap that I haven't gone through yet and got rid of. So I just like to keep a bin there for bits of scrap and rubbish. Got this cheap little metal master bandsaw which does the job. It's not the fastest way of cutting, but it's kind of nice. You can just set it up and carry on doing a few other jobs while it's chopping away if it's a big chunk of steel, or just, it's also great for if you're doing stuff late at night. It's a hell of a lot quieter than using a grinder, so I use that quite a bit. And then got my linisher. This is actually a woodworking tool, this thing, so I use it for that, and I do use it for metal as well. It's not the greatest. It turns quite slow, so it's not that great for use as a linisher, but I use it for facing off manifolds, and I think I was sanding wood on it the other day. So once again, it's not the greatest, but it's still a handy tool to have. So I've tried to put all these things on casters. So those are both on casters. That steel scrap thing is on casters, and so is the bench. So, well, actually, all of it is actually. So you can wheel things around and move it and clean underneath it and all that sort of stuff. And it really helps with being able to tuck things away when you're not using it, and then pull them out when you need it. So if I'm ever cutting something long, I can wheel my bandsaw around here and put long lengths out through there. So it's really good just having having things on casters. I just go on like eBay or AliExpress and just buy a bunch of cheap ones. They seem to work. Now this is my tired old time machine. I hardly ever use it, to be honest. Well, I haven't recently anyway, because I haven't been going drifting, but it's pretty clapped out. I got given it from a mate, and I really was going to tidy it up one day, and I never have, and it just sits here and gets used when I need it. So another one of those things that it's when you got it, you just use it. So after I lined this whole area with the tongue and groove, I just took all my sort of favourite pictures and bits of memorabilia that I had lying around and just made an effort to hang things up in an orderly manner and get rid of stuff I didn't really need or want. So got some old event posters that mean a lot to me, and friends' cars, event memorabilia from glory days when I drove down to Christchurch, a few awards from over the time. This old, my sister made this for one of my son's birthdays as a bit of a picture frame. So this is my Corolla that's sitting at the back looking sad for itself. So I thought it was too cool to get rid of, so it's hung up there. So yeah, just trying to decorate a little bit and display things that mean a lot to me. It's my Corolla there. That's from NZPC poster book from when we did the shoot for the feature. So I'm pretty stoked to have that. Actually, my friend Royce gave me that. I didn't even know it came out as a poster, and he surprised me with it as a wedding gift. So I was pretty stoked to have that framed up by him. Cheers, mate. And an old Mazda advertisement for 808s and 616, I guess it is. It says Mazda 1600, so piston variants of the RX3 and RX2. Coming out of my mess area back into the main part of the shed. So this is a recent addition. This was, you have seen in my previous videos, I had my big square workbench. So I ended up chopping it up to make this. Now the reason I did was it used to always sort of sit here or wherever it would fit, and it was just an awkward size. It used to stick out too far, and I always had to walk around it, and I could never really use the whole bench because it'd be up against the wall. It was a great bench, don't get me wrong, but it just really didn't suit the space, and I've really been trying to just get room to move, have cars in here, have bench space, all that sort of stuff. So I decided that I'd chop it up. So instead of, it was a 1.2 by 1.2 metre bench, so now I've chopped it in half, spread it out, so it's now 600 deep by 2.4 long. Made a nice robust frame for it and mounted my toolboxes in. So I've nearly finished it, but the last thing I want to do is I want to get another one of these Tool Pro roller cabinets and replace these old wooden drawers. So it'll have a set in each one, my toolbox from since I left school, and then just a bunch of power tools and hand tools down there. So I wasn't quite sure if I'd like it, but since I've made it, it's been great. I've loved it. I wish I'd done it ages ago, to be honest, but it's really good because this part was a bit of an unused space up against this wall, and like I said, as it was a big bench, it was taking up room. So it's done. It's great. It's used up the space. It's gained room over here. So real stoked about that. So I've just got my hand shear mounted on the end, so you can cut bits of flat bar or cut panel steel. Cool tool to have. Saves using a grinder or tin snips, whatever. It's awesome. Just put a bit of a stainless splashback just to keep crap off the wall, and a bit of decorating on this wall. I painted in just a plywood wall that I painted and trimmed up. So cool old Mazda sign that I got given from a friend from a Mazda workshop he worked at. If you know these, you'll know these are DIY RE. So this was a DVD set on how to rebuild 13Bs, which was brought out, oh shit, I'm not sure, but a fair while ago. But it was a cool box set of DVDs, and came with these posters of exploded views and measurements and all sorts of stuff. So I thought it was cool to hang up there. And that's the cover of the New Zealand performance car that my Corolla was featured in. So a good friend of mine, Thomas, he actually drew this cover. So It's my Corolla at the bottom, Fanga Dan's Commodore at the top, Darren Kelly's Skyline, and an 86 from Japan. So pretty proud of that actually, pretty proud of it to make it on, well, onto the, in a weird way, make it onto the cover of New Zealand Performance Car. And in the same vein, my friend Thomas, who drew the cover, also drew this for me of my Corolla, and Felix the cat is a bit of a representation of my son, or my oldest son, so it's a really cool picture that I'll have forever, and I'm really proud of it. So cheers mate, really appreciate that. Because these poles were here, like I said, for the roof, and thought nothing better to do than make a nice shelf set up with the space. So put a bit of effort into trying to get everything organised. Got some shelving down the bottom which has house paints and oils and all sorts of stuff, jack stands and fuel containers, all that sort of crap. So keep that stuff under there. I've recently this is just ACM, this white stuff, so just because I had a sheet of it lying around, so I've just recently put that on, just so when I pull apart motors or anything, they sit up there that I can mop up the oil easy. So it's got LED strip lighting underneath, so it illuminates the bench. So it's mint there. There's a little bit of an office area, or you know, if we need to draw or write things down. These stackable drawers, it's just full of all sorts, nuts and bolts and screws and zip ties and electrical bits and pieces, sort of stuff. So I use that quite a lot. Bit of a battery charging station over there, which you need. And then just use this top area just for storage. Oh, and if you spy those, for that, looking forward to that part. So in these containers I sort of have them organised. There's I think the top one up there is just a bunch of radiator hoses which I use for mock-up, bunch of electrical parts, hoses for other stuff, car parts, rope, all sorts. So I think it's a bin of tarpaulins and drop cloths and all sorts of stuff. So just stuff that gets used semi-regularly or is too good to throw away because it'll get used for a future project. So keep it all tucked up there and stashed away. And now because around in my mess area there's nowhere to store lengths of steel, so I just made this rack to just hold exhaust tubing and bits of RHS and roll cage tubing and that sort of stuff. So that just keeps it up off the floor and out of the way. And then I can also see what I got, so it works quite good. I was at a second-hand store one day and came across this big pile of old bar mats. So got some cool old bar mats up on the roof there, and down here is just a bit of a collection of cool old hats that I've got, which rather than sitting in my drawer I thought I'd hang up. So there's some cool old hats in there and a couple of newer hats. Hope you enjoyed that little tour of my workshop here. Now I'm more caught up on jobs and projects that I set myself that didn't involve these videos and cars and that sort of stuff. So I've now got the time and I'm ready to start getting stuck back in, trying to finish some of these cars off, put some more of these videos out. I'm really enjoying doing these videos and a lot of guys seem to be enjoying watching them, so I'll keep at it. If you want to follow along, subscribe to the channel, and if you want notifications of when I put videos out, hit the notification bell and that'll let you know when I upload a video. I'd appreciate it too if you've got any friends that you know that might be interested in this sort of stuff. Let them know. It'd be cool if you could share it around for me. And I thought if you want to follow me along on either Instagram or on my Facebook page, my Instagram is probably a little bit more personal maybe than just this sort of video, and the Facebook page is just, I kind of just share these videos really, but I might get back into putting a few more things up there. So I'll put links to those in the description, so if you want to follow me along, feel free. And thanks for watching. So yeah, look out for the next one, which will likely be getting a bit of work done on my Starlet, which is just here out of shot. Pretty keen to get stuck into that. So yeah, cheers.